Greetings in the precious name of Jesus. It's a joy having you share this program, Choices, with us. We in Guyana will be celebrating our Golden Republic Jubilee. We give God all the thanks, the glory, the honor, and the praise for showering His blessings upon us. We will celebrate under the theme Guyana Together, Reflect, Celebrate, and Transform. Significant, Guyana uniting as one people in pursuit of a prosperous destiny for this great nation. Reflect, from where we were and to where God has brought us. Celebrate our achievement. Matrimony means celebration after hard work. Transform, significant development to be fueled by our oil. You choose to be with us on Choices. We want to say thanks. God bless you. God bless Guyana.
We're about to go into a season where people could be forced, could be moved, motivated to say ill things and to do ill things, act differently. Some of the things that if we're not conscious, if we're not cognizant of what we say and what we do, could actually serve as fuel for confusion and ultimately disaster. And so one has to be very mindful in this season how we approach our different events and different activities. The thing about it is that the season will pass, the season will be over.
Very good.
And then we are required to work together as a people for the development and for the advancement of our nation. And so we cannot afford to break down even before we start to build, because that will be setting us back. And it is against that background I want to draw your attention to Proverbs, and Proverbs 4 and verse 20. We take it from verse 20. Solomon, reflecting on the words of his father as he, was preparing to become king. He said, "My son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ear to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart. For they are life to those who find them, and health to one's whole body. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows out of it." And so we have to be very careful of the things that we say, the things that we do, how we think. We need to guard our hearts, because if our hearts become infected or affected, we could affect other people, and by extension in this season, even affect the growth and development of this nation. Gentlemen.
What is remarkable is your characterization of the possibility of breaking down before we even start building. It is a very sobering thought. What is also sobering is perhaps for the first time, as we understand social media more, I'm talking about the general public, we are getting an opportunity to observe our hearts, to observe our inner thinking, to observe how we interact with information, how we relate to one another, social media. And so this is not people taking a pail and stave and striking another. There's a saying that words are wind, and blows are unkind. We have been observing words being used on social media, and it's really reflecting our hearts at this time. Gentlemen, I'd like us to make a comment on that in the light of the wisdom from Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23.
The thing about social media, Bishop, it's an interesting window, as you said, into how we are thinking at the moment as society. We may not have been afforded the opportunity to know how our fellow Guyanese are thinking without the existence of these media. People may have been saying things in their own closed circles. When I see some of the comments, it troubles me because I often think that, hey, you know what, we still have to live with one another. When we finish saying all of these things, come March the 3rd and thereafter, we still are here together in Guyana trying to build the same country. Now, the thing about people just saying these things, sometimes we only realize what is inside of us when we react. And what I have found is that once somebody says something that is contrary to your opinion, and especially if they're of the other race, that person, you as the person who's received that information, I found on social media, people tend to brand the other party racist or the other person racist just because they say something that is contrary. Now, sometimes the person is just calling it like they see it, but because they don't agree with you, they're branded racist, and not just branded racist, it's usually with some extra adjectives that are very unsavory. And I wonder why it is that we have to go that way. Why can we not simply discuss issues? Let's be reasonable. Let's analyze the matter. Why does it always have to descend? Any issue seems to descend into an issue of race or politics at this stage, and we've got to move beyond that.
The scripture makes a statement powerful about the issue of the heart. You know, sometimes someone posts something on social media, and when you read the reaction, the response, you know what it tells me sometimes is that sometimes persons are unaware what they have in their heart, you know. And what they read, it triggers.
Yes.
It triggers, so, you know, it exposes your head, pulls out, wait, that was in me? So they say, God in our heart, you know. These things seep out from our heart. That, what? That was in me? And so it is quite powerful. Reverend Tasani, you were mentioning something here.
No, I was making the observation that in some cases, what comes out surprises us, and it also reveals the level at which we have chosen to operate. You know, the Apostle Paul in Romans advised in Romans 12:3, I think it was, to operate soberly. Yeah. And he was this father figure giving an advice to a group of believers who were following, or who he was the shepherd over. And this whole concept of sober thinking was an advice given. Like we today are suggesting to the nation of Guyana to operate soberly. And if you go back to Proverbs 4, Solomon again is giving an advice. He's saying he has been giving advice to his son. And he's saying, son, listen to me. And so we are not just here for a gaffe or a conversation, or we are not just social observers watching the patterns of what is taking place. We're saying that if we are not careful in what we do, we can surely create issues for ourselves that we have not quite prepared ourselves for. And like I think as Bishop who said earlier, we have set ourselves back long before we have started. So we have to be careful.
But see,
I don't care how upset we are, we got to be careful.
We have to be careful because I believe that is why Solomon placed that caveat there in the first place, to guard. Because out of our hearts will flow the issues of life.
Do you think therefore it is possible that people do not know what is in their heart?
But Bishop,
Let me just I don't believe, I mean, I hear people say that. Could I put on my sociological?
Sure, please.
All right. There's a gentleman by the name, some of you may have heard this before, there was a gentleman by the name of W.I. Thomas who, he was a very good sociologist, and he mentioned something that stuck with me from a class since 1988 or something like that. He says, preliminary to any self-determined active behavior, there is always a period of examination and deliberation, which he calls the definition of the situation. That's why I personally don't believe in anything like temporary insanity. Because for you to stab a man, you have to go and get a knife. You have to know where he is and all of that. So you can't say, this thing just jumped out of me. It is inside of you. Yeah. And I believe I believe that people, for example, if somebody says something on social media, and this thing touches you that you got to go and get your phone, and you have to start typing. It is what is inside of you. You start typing, and then you have to say, send. All of those things, in my mind, is that period of examination. Let me tell you something. For me, many times I have seen things on social media, and I said, you know what, I'm going to contribute to this discussion. And as I think, I said, nah, bye. Because I already reasoned. And I think that's the problem that we have. People are doing things, and then they want to tell you sorry after. And so, we have to, I believe this is what Solomon was actually being told. Long before these things happen, boss, you have to protect, and maybe point to the heart, but it's really the emotions and so on. And so we have to find ourselves in that mode where we protect the way we think and the way we act.
I like the reference you made, and I would like to give an example of how this thing works, because we are cautioning. Be careful what you say. Be careful, all of these, the rantings and ravings, the cussing out, the racial slurs, and all of those different things that we put in. Remember, we have to live together after the elections, and it's like the husband who's upset with his wife in the morning, and he calls her crab dog. He's upset. She might have said or done something, and he calls her crab dog. Now, his memory is very shallow and short. And he goes to work, and he has a fantastic day, a rough day, or whatever it is, and he comes home during the night, and he attempts to approach her, and she says, "Is the crab dog?" Is the crab dog you're hugging, that kind of thing. So, that man may never use that word again in terms of his relationship with his wife, because she has a reference, a memory for 5 years after that. Every time he makes an approach her, she says, boy, you like the crab dog, and that kind of situation. Let us be careful what we say, therefore. I am of that view that we know what is in our hearts. So let's be careful.
Bishop, the caution here is to guard our hearts with our diligence. But I want to deposit two scriptures. Out of the heart, we talk about from the heart flows the issues of life. But the scripture also says from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. And so we got to be mindful. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
And what does scripture talk about coming out of the heart? What defiles a man? What goes in?
Not what goes in, is what comes out.
But David himself said, when he was caught up with Bathsheba and the murder of Uriah, and now he's penitent, David said, and the hidden part.
Yes.
So I just added
there is a hidden part.
He knew that, Bishop. He knew it.
Yeah.
Bish, in our attempt, and I bring us back to our politics, in our attempt to win over, in our attempt to gain support for whatever political structure we believe in, and I speak to the politicians, those who run campaigns and so on, and to the supporters, we seem to have a concept that if I belittle you, then I become better. And that concept of belittling each other for the simple-minded, for the immature, even for some of us who are mature, creates a kind of hostility, a kind of vexation. You are past me. And that in itself stimulates some of the kinds of venom we see in social media. I ask the question, therefore, is there a higher standard of behavior as we attempt to motivate folks to follow our vision? Is there a better way in doing it? Because it seems as if when we finish dividing Wesley from Paul and Dr. Marcel from Pastor Eon, and we have gotten the support, at the end of the day, I still need Minister Wesley, Pastor Paul, Dr. Hudson, Pastor Bell. I still need everyone.
But there's a the politicians especially. I remember the late Professor Louis Bob, when he had just returned to Guyana. He was a professor at the University of West Indies. And I had to deal with him. And he said, this is Professor Louis Bob. He said, young man, politicians in the region need two stomachs. One for food and one for vomit. I'd never heard the concept before. But this is what this university professor said to me. And I'm making this reference because at the end of the day, outside of the glare of the public and the discerning eye, men who go on political platform, men and women, and abuse each other are knocking glasses.
Yes, that's true.
And people outside of that don't see that reality. And people are still, they have ordinary people who are fired up in the street, fired up in their home, hate their neighbor, hate their friend, flying their flag, cussing, abusing each other. And the ones who are benefiting from the spoils are sitting around the Grey Goose. Or sitting around and fishing. Cheers! So the whole idea is, it's regrettable that these things happen. And the wise man said, guard your heart. Because long after those who have benefited from this whole process, long after they would have moved on, your heart is still filled with bitterness towards your neighbor, towards your brother, towards your sister.
But the
I
important thing
think
is
that when Solomon is mentioning the instructions they guard, what a guard does. A guard is or ought to be someone that is imbued with instructions to determine what goes in or what comes out, what is allowed in. And here I think he's making the point that we must filter. We must filter what we hear or what we see and determine whether it's permissible to enter into one's heart. So before he comes to the point of talking about guard, he talks about wisdom. He talks about some instructions that the guard should embrace. And using that, having embraced that, the guard then determines what should enter the heart. So in guarding the heart, okay, we must receive sound instruction, wisdom, so we determine whether it's permissible to go into the heart or not. Just like the security, well, a good security guard, he determines who comes and who goes.
But Dr. Lee, you notice that we cannot hire a security guard to guard our hearts.
No, that's what he talks
Yes.
about.
So,
In
yeah,
the
very
preceding
responsible.
verses,
Yeah,
he talks
yes,
about
yes.
wisdom.
Yeah.
He talks about
Yeah.
wisdom.
And simply because we live in a world where we hear conversations, things that don't even matter to us, we hear. So when you hear something, it goes into your heart. You have to decide if you're going to respond to it and how you're going to respond to it. So hear this. Somebody said, words are wind, but blows are unkind. Okay, I was beaten so many times by my father. I received licks, we use the chronic. But some words that I heard from my father, I am still hearing it in my head. So be careful of the words that you utter, because it has long-lasting effect. It goes into your hard drive, and your hard drive don't always give you back right away what you download. So the occasion might present itself.
Solomon has placed a lot of emphasis on your heart. But he talks about above all else, above anything else, because this is the organ or the entity that will determine how you walk, how you operate. So he says avoid. In the next scripture he says avoid all pervasive talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. Because he knows that this could be poisonous to you as an individual. And if you got these things in your heart, and I know for a long time, my old man had done me some things. And for a long time, can't get it over. And I reacted to it. And I would always raise it, even when the Lord said to me a day, go make it right with your father. He said, but you can't remember me. You don't know what this man do me. And then I started to list the things. But he says, that doesn't matter. You have to make it right. And so sometimes those things that we receive in our heart, it waits for the opportune time to come out. And we say things and then we say, sorry, we didn't mean to say it. But whatever's in your heart, you will say. If you don't have a guard, and that guard is you yourself, avoiding those things.
What happened to you is that you became infected. You allowed it to really get in and create something. Here Matthew chapter 15. Bishop, I heard you with this some time ago, and we alluded to it earlier. Matthew 15:11. It says, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth a man. Here from verse 17 now, it says, do not you understand that whatsoever entereth into the mouth goeth into the belly, and is cast out? Verse 18 says, but those things which proceeded out of the mouth come forth from the heart. So this heart is very important. And they defile the man. Verse 19 says, for out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, theft, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man. But to eat with unwashed hands defileth not a man. He was actually dealing with a cultural something.
Yeah.
So we gotta, Solomon says, out of the heart proceed the issues of life. Well, we now have an understanding. We gotta listen to some of the issues here. So we really, really have to set watch and be very diligent where our heart is concerned. We gotta just keep it holy.
Keep your mouth free from perversity. Keep corrupt thought far from your lips. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the path for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or the left. Keep your foot from evil.
So what is our advice? In the face of the compelling argument of Scripture, how do we expect the ordinary man or woman who's vexed, especially during this season? It's it seems as though people have set out to create offense, to offend each other. It seems like it is almost a cultural something associated with this season. How do we guard our hearts? What advice do we have to the young man who is poisoned in his mind or heart, young lady poisoned in her heart, and they want to make a post, which is what we're seeing a lot of.
I think, Bishop, what is important is I think self-control. Self-control is critical to the entire process, because you could actually say you're not. You see, the mind is a powerful thing, you know. And if you say in your mind, I am not doing this thing, I believe that you could come to that place where you would not do the thing. So I think they need to demonstrate self-control. I think they need not to allow themselves to be distracted, because many times some of these behaviors come from people who pump them up.
I think we also need to think long term, because after election, there's life after election. We still have to live with each other, and this is choices. We just have to choose to make a quality decision.
This is amazing, amazing conversation. Going to March 2nd is very critical. Very critical. But how do we live with each other after that becomes an issue that we must all be focused on. And I imagine that's what we've been trying to say. Be careful what you write, be careful what you say, and don't let us break down before we start to build. It's choices. We'll see you next week. God bless you.
We thank you for joining us on Choices today. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly, LNP Durban Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana, for any of our special services. I'm Celicia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.